Do you remember the disturbing Joker theme from the opening of The Dark Knight? Well, multiply that by a 10 and you pretty much get the tone of the Dunkirk score. Hey guys, so if you watched my video of the top 10 most anticipated movie soundtracks for 2017, then you know Dunkirk was my number one. And I couldn't wait to go and see the movie, because the Christopher Nolan and Hans Zimmer collaboration brings nothing but greatness to the table, so I expected nothing less for Dunkirk. Now, at the beginning of this soundtrack review, I have to mention that Hans Zimmer isn't the only man on the credits list for this soundtrack. He's still the main composer for the movie, but some tracks are also composed by a very talented and up-and-coming duo called Benjamin Wolfish and Lorne Balfe. And Benjamin Wolfish is credited as the composer for the most emotional track on the album, so I believe they both had a very big influence on the overall score. But for simplistic reasons, for now on, I will address Hans Zimmer as the only composer for Dunkirk. So the soundtrack for Dunkirk consists mostly from electronic sounds, and it is accompanied with heavy brass and string sections similar to what Zimmer did for the Batman trilogy, but nowhere near as disturbing and intense as it is in Dunkirk. And I will say, if the soundtrack for Arrival was the most disturbing soundtrack of 2016, Dunkirk is certainly that for 2017, but the difference is, while the disturbing Arrival score relies more on horror elements, Dunkirk is truly an intense thriller soundtrack. From the moment the film starts to the very end, it has constant suspense, intensity, and you never know in what direction the music will go, so it's very unexpected. The soundtrack has also one interesting element, and that is the ticking clock, which plays a big factor in the score. Now, what's the interesting part? Hans Zimmer actually took the watch that Christopher Nolan wears all the time and recorded and synthesized the ticking from Nolan's watch. So what we hear throughout the soundtrack is a real actual watch from the director of the movie, which is a fabulous idea. And that constant ticking fits perfect to the overall theme and tone of the movie. But the ticking clock is not the only interesting part of the score, because the whole soundtrack is very innovative and you won't hear that kind of music every day. My biggest positive for this soundtrack, however, is that it is in full service of the movie and brings to the table exactly what the film needed. It never tends to overshadow the movie or be something the movie is not. The best example is the actual free release track called Submarine. When you listen to it on its own, you won't find or feel much in it, but when you've seen the movie and then listen to the track, you will enjoy and appreciate it much more, because you know what's behind the music. And the music in the film has that constant uprising tension until the very end, hitting its maximum somewhere in the middle of the film when the track Impulse plays, and you are on the edge of your seat and actually want that tension to decrease, because you feel the pain of every soldier in the movie through the music. So when the tension actually stops, it is so satisfying and emotional that I cannot put that in words. You have to really experience it by yourself. As for the negatives, well, I already mentioned the disturbing electronic sound of the soundtrack. And I was actually a little disappointed leaving the theater, because when you have the beautiful and epic music from Interstellar in mind, or maybe it's Zimmer's other work for war films, and if you expect that in some ways for Dunkirk, then obviously you will be disappointed. But then I started to think a little bit and analyze, and I found many positives in the soundtrack, as I already mentioned it until now. But still, Dunkirk isn't a score you will put on your phone, for example, and listen to the whole day. Simply because it's disturbing and intense, so it's not easy to listen. Except maybe for the mentioned last track, Variation 15, so if you are going to listen to the score for Dunkirk, have that in mind, but I encourage you. Go and see the movie and then listen to the soundtrack album. It will be a much more pleasant experience. So to conclude it all, the soundtrack for Dunkirk is not Hans Zimmer's best work or a score that you will enjoy to listen because of the disturbing element of the score. But it's in full service of the movie and fits to it more than perfect, with very innovative sound that you won't hear every day. So I'm gonna give it 86 out of 100. Thanks so much for watching. If you love movie soundtracks, feel free to subscribe, because this is the channel for you. So subscribe, click the thumbs up button if you like this particular video, and comment. It will all be very much appreciated. Thank you once again, and I'll see you next time.